I think we're live.
I think we're live. We're alive on this end.
We are.
We're a little bit early because we saw people were checking in. We've got Dallas, Texas. I used to live in Dallas. We have Portland, Oregon. I used to live in Portland, Oregon. We have Honolulu. I've been there. We've been there.
We have.
Philly. Her parents are from Philly.
Exactly. Louisville. Your dad lived there.
My daddy lived in Louisville.
Yeah. Flemington, New Jersey.
Louisville.
Not far from here.
Flemington. Yeah, our neighbors.
I actually don't quite know where Flemington is. I think it's central.
Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles.
There you go.
Where in Los Angeles do you live? Patchwork Collective.
Well, clearly we have someone who's doing a Red Cross training, I think in Australia, while watching. How do you like that? Pretty
Iowa,
crazy. Yep.
Asheville.
Love Asheville.
We've been to Asheville.
Beautiful.
Western North Carolina. Ottawa. In the Hizzle, San Fernando Valley. I've been to the Valley many times. Arizona. I've been there. I've been to all 50 states, so every one of these states I can go, I've been there. And I think I've been to all of the provinces in California except like New Brunswick.
Oh, we have the UK. You're just being David's parents were both from
Geordie's, Newcastle.
Yes,
exactly. The place you don't bring coals to.
We have a second Red Cross volunteer.
Get the wiggity wags out of town. Nolans.
Yep.
We were down there.
A lot of New Orleans I've seen,
yeah,
which is very exciting.
Göttingen. How do you pronounce that? I don't even know. Is it a hard G or a soft G?
I don't know what the umlaut actually does.
Is there an umlaut?
Yeah.
Oh, but that's over the O. I think it goes ooh. But I performed in Köln, Germany.
There you go.
Fort Worth, Alabama. Oh, yeah. There's our friend Allie. She knows I used to live in Hueytown. Right next to Deweytown and Louistown.
She's there?
Boom.
Oh, there
boom,
she is.
Boom, diddy, boom, boom.
Okay, great. Excellent.
The Quill of Duck is.
So we are going to start on time, everybody.
Santa Monica.
I get nervous about all the tech stuff. So I like to get on, make sure we're actually live, all that kind of thing. And our amazing, all things tech, all things social media.
Big shout out
to Christy Austin, who is here. If there are any questions along the way or whatever, Christy is like the fairy godmother of tech.
Stephen Marks.
And she can help out if
anybody's
helping.
Kenya.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, Nairobi, man.
How cool is that?
That is super cool.
Ypsilanti. That's a
the best name for a town ever, apart from Black Wolf.
Snowy Sedona. How is Sedona snowy right now?
Okay. We got to start.
3 o'clock. We got to start because we have so much to do. Welcome.
Welcome to the 11th annual Pitchapalooza.
And I just want to say quickly before we introduce ourselves, which we're going to do. Yeah. The NaNoWriMo Pitchapalooza is very special for many reasons. First of all, NaNoWriMo has a huge place in our heart, and we've been with it from the beginning, so that's super exciting. From the beginning of NaNoWriMo.
Yes.
But also because the winners of NaNoWriMo Pitchapalooza, we have had some people go on to such huge success.
Gigantic careers.
Unbelievable.
Multiple books.
So there's it's like Stacy is up to like 43 books at this point. Award-winning.
Yeah. No, I think it's 78 books now.
Well, it might be between when we said it. Yeah. So so anyway, we feel that there is a graced.
Something magical. There's some kismetic thing that happens.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we are super excited. Now we actually are going to introduce ourselves for those of you who don't know us.
Okay. My partner has been an agent for over 25 years. She's also the author of 10 books, one that just came out about color. She is also an entrepreneur. She started a company called Little Mismatch, which began by selling socks that don't match in packs of 3s. Blew up all till they had companies, stores all the way from Disneyland to Fifth Avenue in New York City. But perhaps most importantly, she is the mother of my child, Arielle Eckstut.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And my partner in crime over here is the author of 16 books and counting. His first book was a national bestseller, and one of his last books was on the cover of the Sunday New York Times Book Review. And he writes in all different categories, from memoir to middle grade fiction, from sports to reference. And many of his books have been optioned by Hollywood. This year, his second memoir, optioned by Sony.
Yeah.
And the pilot is being written as we speak. Very, very exciting stuff. And perhaps most importantly, he is the father of my child.
Nice
and this is David Henry Sterry.
Yes.
And we are going to be reading 20 pitches today. Yeah. And then deciding a winner. But we do need to get through a little bit of housekeeping first.
This webcast is part of NaNoWriMo's I Wrote a Novel, Now What program. There is in the comments, there'll be a link to go to if you want to go to the link. We encourage everyone to keep writing during Camp NaNoWriMo, which happens in April, coming up. Camp NaNoWriMo, there's going to be a link to that too. A recording will be available.
Yep.
To view, use the same URL you're using to watch live or visit our YouTube channel. The chat box on the right, sidebars for chatting with other participants and for leaving questions. The live chat should be archived. Should be. To be safe, copy any links or information that you would like to keep. Sign in to YouTube to chat. We love to chat. You can also use a Google account to log in. If your video should freeze, that was a fake freeze right there. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
I froze for just a second to make them think it was freezing.
That was clever.
I know, right? I know. So try to just refresh your browser. Refresh. It probably continues. Try other applications, or you can email to Christy, Kristi, at thebookdoctors.com. Should anything go wrong, we've lauded her and shouted her out already. So here's how the Pitchapalooza works. We have been culling pitches. 250-word pitches since, for 6 weeks probably, or a month or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and we read every single one of them betwixt us. That we don't mess around. You send us a pitch, we will read it. Now, if you send the pitch in 3 times, I only read it once. So a man's got to, have some limits. You got to draw your line in the sand. So we've read all these pitches, and we picked what we thought were 20 of the best and most representative and interesting pitches.
Actually, the pitches are chosen randomly.
What's that?
The pitches are chosen randomly.
The pitches are chosen randomly, in case you were wondering.
Yes.
Picked out of a hat. But we did read them all.
We read every single one.
Yes, we did.
But from that point forward,
I don't pick them.
No, David is not part of that
I'm
process.
not part
As
of
you can see.
sort of the intelligentsia that rules the whole situation here.
Yeah.
In the Book Doctors or in anything related to the Book Doctors. I'm the guy who says all the stuff.
Yeah.
As you can see. So that's what I was told. I was wrong.
Right. You weren't told that.
No, I was told that. Whoever told me is never going to work in this organization again. I'll tell you that right now. So, randomly picked. All right. Share the pitch tips online with hashtag NaNoWriMo. You can tag us at the Book Doctors on Twitter and Facebook. At the Book Doctors on
That's
Instagram.
Called an underscore.
Underscore? See,
yeah.
I didn't even know that. Check out our YouTube channel. We do have a YouTube channel that we put stuff up on.
We'll talk about that at the end.
We're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think we're good to go.
We are good to go. So a lot of people are confused about what a pitch is. So we are the author of this lovely book. And
this is our other child.
This is our other child. Yes. This is the 3rd edition of the book. And we are going to do the quick pitch for our book so that people understand what a pitch is. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
The essential guide to getting your book published is a step-by-step, blow-by-blow explanation of how to take an idea you're passionate about, make a book out of it, get it published, and deliver it into the hands, heads, and hearts of readers all over the world.
Thank you, America. The world.
The world, not America. We got a lot of continents going on.
I'm waiting for somebody from Antarctica. That's what I really want.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that yet.
Okay, so we're going to start reading. Is there going to be a fan thing this year?
Yeah, we'll explain that at the end. At the end,
we'll explain all of that. Okay, pitch number 1. Win, Lose, or Reign by Jackie Deskovich. Carter Sims has spent the last 8 years with the Wichita Whippets, catching for pitchers headed where he's been aiming his whole life, the big leagues. Pitchers go, but the team's unofficial pitching coach and good luck charm, Renee Bennett, stays every season, helping new guys and her friend Carter however she can. When a pitcher leaves Wichita, they usually don't come back. But of course, when one does, it's exactly who Carter wishes it weren't, his first love. Jason Ace James tasted the major leagues before injuring himself and being sent back to the minor leagues to rehab his arm. Now he's being traded again back to his old team where every face is new except one, his former best friend and the only man he's ever been in love with. Sharing the field again means neither of them can seem to handle the game they've dedicated their lives to, so Renee takes on Ace as her season project. That would be fine, just fine if old feelings died and new feelings didn't develop over a summer. But life and love are much more complicated than baseball. Win, Lose, or Reign is a baseball romance meant for adult readers with queer characters figuring out what it means for them to love more than one person. It's very Bull Durham-y. You know Bull Durham,
totally.
Of course, with Susan Sarandon in the part of Renee Bennett.
Yes, absolutely. So the pitch is quite professionally done.
It's very professionally structured and written.
We have our characters. We have the kind of twist of what happens here, and then the setup for the rest of the novel and how it's going to work out. So all that is terrific. For me, what I really don't get a sense of is who these characters are.
Right.
So the personalities, it's such a particular world, the minor leagues of baseball, not a gay-friendly world.
No.
And
we see none of that. We want to show how difficult it's going to be for our characters to succeed.
It's in Wichita.
And it's in Wichita, which is not necessarily gay-friendly. So the stakes of the love part of it are very clear, but the baseball and the added thing of the gayness isn't dealt with, I feel like, in a deep enough way in this pitch. We don't see how difficult it's going to be.
It adds to the stakes. And so that's like such an important thing. So I really want to just even a couple adjectives for these characters. Now, interestingly, we had a Pitchapalooza winner from a number of years ago, not from NaNoWriMo, who had a story that took place. I don't know if it was professional hockey, but it was like high-end hockey, and that was a gay romance. And that was
historical, also, I believe.
That was from the 40s.
Yes,
You're right. Yes. So that actually, the interesting thing about that was that they were the two main characters were completely closeted. It was the 1940s. Right. Anyway, that book was published.
Yes, it was.
And he, the author of that book actually has a second book out now as well. But the thing that book really had was such high stakes. Very high stakes.
If they got caught, they were going to be, ruined utterly and never work again and never be able to be in society. Obviously, that's not going to happen here.
No.
Although in baseball, maybe they would be. Maybe this pitcher who's trying to make a comeback.
I don't think there's a single out professional
baseball.
There have
been out baseball players in the past, but I don't know
while they were playing?
Barely, yes. Yeah. But I don't know that there is one now, and of course there's such a taboo in professional sports about this. So that's a nice thing to add. It does have a sense of what we always said we were looking for, the familiar and yet the unique.
Yes.
It's got a really nice twist in it that's very commercial.
Yeah. And it's a great setup.
It is
for
a really
terrific
setup for a book. Yes, well done. All right, pitch number 2. American Playground, novel by Michael Shokrian. How a 7-year-old Iranian kid moved to L.A. with one word of English and learned everything he needed to know to become an American on the battlefield of a suburban playground. That's nice. Once the tetherball king of his school in Tehran, Michel Manicherian is immediately singled out for being brown and quite possibly Mexican. He becomes the newest member of the downtrodden boys known as the Nons, N-O-N-S, like knots. Michelle plots to get in with the pros, long-haired, carefree kids who rule the playground, radiating the casual essence of 70s California cool. Michelle knows who he wants to be, but can he first admit who he is? At home, Michelle watches nervous breakdowns happen daily in his family. Mama clings to superstitions, family recipes, defying bourgeois LA, while Baba absents himself from the Amerikii dream. Will they ever find their place in the American landscape, and at what cost? Michelle turns to an unlikely mentor for advice. Bugs Bunny. Ah, what a maroon. Classic coming-of-age narrative wrapped in an immigrant's family struggle to fit into American life, played out via the hard-nosed hierarchies of the asphalt jungle. Michelle's tragicomic encounters recall Patty Clark, Ha 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 by Roddy Doyle, with a Persian twist, alongside Iranian-American classics like Parashikta Kapoor's Sons and Other Flammable Objects and Lipstick Jihad by Azadeh Moaveni. Imagine those books with a wisecracking rabbit guiding the way. Don't take life too seriously, kid. You'll never get out alive. That's American Playground. Well done.
Really well
so
done.
Many cool turns of phrases
Great.
in there. See, your pitch is your audition to show us what a beautiful writer you are, and it has to reflect some of the qualities of the writing that are in the book have to be reflected in the pitch. This should be the best thing you've ever written, your pitch. And I think you could say that there's so many cool plays of language that are very pleasing to the ear and eye.
And it's also funny.
That's what I'm saying. It's funny.
Yeah. So like, and it's so interesting,
yes.
to come to America
yes.
with one word.
Yes.
Like that talk about steaks. Like that's just so hard. You're a 7-year-old kid moving to LA. And then I love the mix-up that he's assumed to be Mexican, and wanting to be with these California kids.
Yes. And Bugs Bunny.
And the comparable titles, which you're sure to hear us talk about as we go
really
on,
well done.
were really, really excellent, and show that this is a literary. Now, the one question. It's a novel. Okay. That this is a literary work of fiction, and it shows very well where it sits on the shelf.
I really loved hard-nosed hierarchies of the asphalt jungle. Like that's a beautiful, like it shows me that you know how to combine words in a way that I haven't quite seen yet that packs some punch to them. By the way, our first pitch didn't have any comparable titles, and that's should be fixed in that pitch. Okay, so yeah, it's familiar. Like we've seen a lot of stories about bullies and playgrounds, but we haven't seen this this twist yet. And in this environment now, and hopefully this is going to flourish and continue, of diversity, in publishing, this is a great thing to be putting out into the marketplace now.
Great job.
Okay, pitch numero tres. She Becomes Death by Marissa Goldstein. Arsenio wears the dead of her skin, on her skin, to honor them, to remember them, a scar to maintain a shred of her dwindling humanity. Each step she takes brings her one step closer to becoming a shadow, an ancient syndicate of mercenaries that was founded by her ancestors. But Arsenio lacks the bloodlust her family members seem to crave despite her conditioning since she was a young child. She has 2 weeks before the confirmation, when she is to take her oath of silence and make the ultimate sacrifice to become a shadow, a sacrifice she was not supposed to know of until it is revealed by the elders. When Arsenio hears the whispers that she will be ordered to slaughter her twin sister, she defies them. She is sentenced to the pit to repent for her disobedience. It is only in the pit where she enters the rites of death, a ritualistic game of survival that was thought to have ended a generation before her. The longer she survives the rites of death, the more she wonders what kind of life she is really fighting for and what will become of her if she wins. She Becomes Death is a coming-of-age story during the darkest of circumstances. She Becomes Death is a 50,000-word, new adult thriller prequel novel.
Do you want me to
Stakes high. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. Very, very high
stakes.
And I feel like Marissa is knows her
knows
fantasy
the territory
territory
yes.
and everything. and the setup is all there.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that stick out for me. It's the when we get to the big plot twist, it felt maybe too reminiscent of the Hunger Games for me. That it was like on the nose of that.
Yeah, we said we want familiar and yet unique. I feel like some of this goes more to the too familiar than the unique. Because
you have a ritualistic game of survival, and that she's not gonna let her sister die.
Right.
So this is that tricky territory where how close do you go to something that's very successful? How far do you go? And this might have stepped over the line for me. That said, in reading it, you might have a different experience. But for the sake of the pitch, that someone's going to think of that.
The pitch is a selling tool also. It's going to sell your book to a publisher or an agent. And when it gets published, it's going to sell it to a reader because that's what they see. Whether it's on an online bookstore or at or when you have an actual book in your hand and you're reading the back of the book. This is what I'm going to buy. I also feel there's not enough world building.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the first pitch we heard, it's a baseball in a small town. I know what that is already. I've seen that a million times. I've never been to the pit. I don't know what the oath of silence is quite. Like, especially when we get into the rites of death. Like, I want you to show me a little bit, not tell me about it, but show me what's unique and cool about your rites of death that we haven't quite seen in a book like this or a story like this before. Because when you just say a ritualistic game, there have been lots of those. That's just a general idea. But to show me specifics of what you have brought to this genre and to this piece is going to be crucial to you getting successfully published.
I do like the idea of the shadows. I find that
I know,
beautiful.
That's great. Yes, absolutely.
Just two business things. 50,000 words is rather short for a new adult fantasy thriller.
Right.
So these tend to be more in the 75 to 100,000 word mark.
But that's not to say that you can't get this published.
No,
you should just know this.
But people should know what is typical. I would leave this at new adult thriller. New adult thriller prequel novel is just a thriller is a novel, so that's redundant. Just being redundant. Yeah. And prequel, it's too confusing because we don't know what. So I would just leave it there.
I wanted to say one thing I really liked about this. Arsenia wears the dead on her skin.
Yeah, that's a beautiful first line.
And I want more of that kind of beautiful poetry and beautiful language, which you're clearly capable of. Okay. The Writing Journey by Hannah Sharp. I am seeking representation for my novel, The Writing Journey, an intricately plotted contemporary women's fiction that encompasses adventure, romance, and a bit of suspenseful intrigue. This novel is Eat, Pray, Love meets James Bond and will appeal to fans of Little Fires Everywhere and The Girl on the Train. The completed manuscript at 75,000 words details the impulsive decision of Andrea, an aspiring author, as she follows a stranger onto a plane to a mysterious destination. Andrea wants to be a published author, but she's held by a trap of writer's block and anxiety. She must escape before she becomes stuck in a mundane future. But is an irrational decision that leads to an irreversible leap of faith the solution? Andrea believes so, when she finds herself in a perfectly plotted adventure with newfound friendships and romance. Perhaps it's unfolding too well, though, like a well-developed novel. Andrea's attention to detail has her questioning whether truth and her reality align. To stop living in fear, she pushes her instincts aside and lets herself fall for strong friendships and an enthralling romance. But inevitable circumstances force her to decide what role to play in her own life. As secrets are revealed, Andrea is left confused while finding clarity in herself. This book navigates unlikely connections, mental health, hopes for change, and life beyond an unrelenting pandemic. Personally, I understand familial struggles that cause anxiety and lead to unstable relationships. As an MSN-RN, I understand mental health and shifts in virus. Viruses.
So to me, I love the idea of this impulsive decision that she follows a stranger onto a plane to a mysterious destination. I mean, you can just see the Netflix.
It's like an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Absolutely.
only in this in a new era.
Yeah, and I also do think that writing about anxiety right now is very on the money, because there's just so much anxiety out there in
even
the world.
in our house as well.
Yes, there is.
I also like the idea of, like there's a great play called Writer in Search of a Play, where you have a story inside of a story, and the story starts to come true, and you start to go, is this reality, or am I making this up in my head? I like that kind of thing, the story within the story, and people do. It's a wonderful sort of trope that you can make your own, and it feels like you have here.
Okay, so here's the thing. Right now, this is a pitch of ideas and not a pitch for a thriller or adventure or what this book is claiming
to be.
I got no James Bond, no Little Fires Everywhere, no Girl on the Train, and just a tiny bit of Eat, Pray, Love. And we're going to get back to these comp titles in 1 second. But just in terms of, I need to be on the seat of my chair at the end of this pitch going, oh my God, what's going to happen? Yeah. Is she going to live? And
fingertips off the cliff. Oh.
Yeah. So the story, the cliffhanger needs to be developed instead of telling us what this novel is about.
And I will give you examples of this.
Yes, please.
Enthralling romance. Well, don't tell me that it's going to be enthralling. Enthrall me. Inevitable circumstances. That's so vague as to be, I don't know what that is. Secrets revealed. I mean, you can tell me that the secrets are going to be revealed, but I want to know what the secret is in some form or another. You obviously don't want to give away the end of the book, but you have to give us more than that, because right now you're telling us too much and not showing us enough. It's like those people that wear shirts that say sexy on them. I'm like, let me be the judge of that. Don't tell me it's funny, make me laugh. Don't tell me it's sad, make me cry. Don't tell me it's thrilling, suspenseful, but keep me in suspense and intrigue.
Absolutely. So one last point about comp titles, since we harp on these like crazy because they're so important.
Yes.
So the natural tendency is to try to compare your book to books that have been hugely successful. And of course that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
The problem is when you compare your books to the most successful books or books that everybody else compares them to, it elicits two reactions. One is, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the second is that you are not showing your knowledge of the bookshelf where your book is going to sit. So if you can only name the most popular titles, it doesn't mean that you've read that far into thrillers or what have you. I mean, every single one of these books are the
gigantic,
biggest
hugely,
books
wildly successful
in their category. On top of it, I find it, because the pitch was more idea than actual plot, I don't understand how it's all these things together.
Yeah, the pitch hasn't proven that, as you said, where's the Eat, Pray, Love? Where's the James, like in James Bond, there's guys going over on a motorcycle, going over a train while being shot at with a machine
also, he's
gun.
a 007, so it's a very particular kind of thing where you have, someone who's trying to figure out. An
international spy who's having sex with every woman that he sees, and has really peculiar.
Now, maybe she's the 007 here, but it sounds like she's just an average person.
Right,
so that's the confusion.
And maybe there is one of the guys who's a 007, but I don't see any of that. You haven't. There's not enough proof in the pudding.
Yes, but there is a great idea.
Yes, a wonderful idea here.
Okay.
All right, number 5. Patriot Girl of Mount Rose by Peggy Baldwin. 10-year-old Elizabeth Stout is a proud patriot who lives in a village near Princeton in the colony of New Jersey. While her father and brothers are fighting the British, Elizabeth gladly does her part to manage their farm. As the Revolutionary War drags on, her one place to escape are the sprawling rose gardens behind their barn. And with her grandfather's help, her gardening talents grow. In evenings when villagers gather to share news, Elizabeth feels their grief and worry and longs to do more for the patriot cause. Girls can't help in war, she's teased, but Elizabeth wishes with all her heart it could be different. Now the war is ending and Elizabeth's family is reunited at home. When the Continental Congress moves to Princeton, her father receives a visit from his former commander, Colonel Alexander Hamilton. Elizabeth learns that while war may be over, the challenges are just beginning for an independent America. Soon she discovers there is still time to help the Patriot cause and one of its greatest heroes, even when it happens in the most unexpected ways. Patriot Girl of Mount Rose is first in a series of middle graders based on the folklore of the Sourland Mountains of New Jersey. As the 250th anniversary of America approaches in 2026, Sourland Mountain stories offer engaging new tales of childhood, life during the Revolution. Next in the series is Legend of the Unionville Schoolhouse.
Dun, 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 dun,
For those of you who don't know those bars, those are from a little musical you may not have heard of called Hamilton. And our daughter played it approximately 1 billion times in the last 3 years.
And actually, when I first read this pitch, I got so excited. Even though our daughter is almost 14 now, she loved Hamilton so much, and the idea of a book for she was in the middle grade years when she loved Hamilton, that a girl would encounter Alexander Hamilton it just
quite
makes
thrilling.
me so happy.
Yes, quite thrilling.
So I think it's such an interesting idea. First of all, to take a girl in the Revolutionary War period, and to see the Continental Congress and all of these different things that kids are learning in that period, I think is wonderful. We're also from we live in New Jersey.
We live in the colony of New Jersey as well.
We live in the colony of New Jersey.
We're thinking about seceding from the Union right now, frankly, but I kid, of course.
So I think this is a terrific idea for a series.
And I also, with the whole empowering of women that's going on in the world, and there again is a call for books that have strong female characters in the lead, and this is exactly what the doctor ordered in that regard.
So in terms of the pitch itself,
how do you make it better?
The beginning of the pitch for me is a bit slow.
Yes.
I that's great if gardening is part of her hobby in the book itself, but I think you really need to set up what the that her father and brothers are fighting the British, but it's just kind of stated the sense of fear and whatever is going on in the house isn't the writing is not displaying that.
I mean, if it was me, I would say that her brother and her father are facing bayonets and bullets flying over their heads and, all the things of war, dead bodies. And I mean, obviously you want to be middle grade, but those sort of things that's what's happening in her world. And I think it's a bit flat the way it's presented now, when it should be, oh my God, how are the brother and dad going to even survive? What a crazy world that would be for a girl who's 10 years old to be living in.
To bring the musical back for 1 second, I mean, that was the thing that the musical did, is that it made that time come alive in such a powerful way, even for little kids.
Yeah, right.
So that we need a little bit more of that, but love it.
What was going to say? Oh, yeah, and I also... this ends for me, this pitch ends, it sort of fizzles out a little bit. She's going to help even when it happens in the most unexpected ways. Again, I'm not hanging by my fingertips off the cliff. I need more information about, some event that's going to lead to cataclysm for her and her family. Number 6. The Tsarina of Snow by Lizzie Joy Brochat. You think that's right?
Brochat,
possibly. Once there was an empress. After losing her crown and her family to a country that ran red with the blood of revolution, she let her spirit be consumed by the cold of winter until all she could remember was her wish to find her beloved son. Once there was a little boy. All he ever wished for was a home, a place of warmth and comfort, a place where he didn't have to worry about whether or not food would be on the table every day. And he seemed to get his wish handed to him on a silver platter in the form of a lovely lady dressed in snowflakes and jewels. Once there was a mother. Like any other, Her only wish was to protect her little boy. If that meant she had to venture through Denmark in the dead of winter in search of a mythical queen, then she was prepared to do that. Sometimes a wish can go too far. It can take you deep into the frozen wilderness or into a cold, dark sleep. Sometimes it can turn you into something you never wished to be. But this is an other times story, as much as it is a sometimes story, because other times a wish can also be the one to pull you into the light. The Tsarina of Snow is an upper middle grade historical fantasy which retells Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen in 32,500 words.
So for me, one of the things that's very special about this pitch is the voice. That you really, it feels like you're being told a story.
It does, an old-fashioned story. Yes.
Hans Christian Andersen.
Come, children, sit around the fire and I shall tell you a tale.
Yeah.
Absolutely, which is great.
And I felt lulled into
and
hearing.
the structure of it, once there was an empress,
yes.
once there was a little boy. It has a really nice structure and feel and flow to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love that. When you say upper middle grade and you have once there was a little boy. I feel concerned about audience and someone
yes.
saying, is this really upper middle grade? Because kids who are in upper middle grade reading are reading, first of all, up. So they're reading like about 13, 14, 15-year-olds.
Like the worst thing you could say to our kid when they were a middle grade person was, oh, there's a little boy here to see you. She's like, but little boy, no, I'm big. I'm a big grown-up person. That's what they want to be. Yeah.
So that stood out for me. And then actually the one place where I felt confused by the writing is at the end, but this is an other time story as much as it is a sometimes story, because other times a wish can also be the one to play. Like I
got lost reading it. I got a little bit lost.
It was so beautiful and so clear until that point. And I feel like this is referring to something in the book that we don't know about, but we don't have insight.
Absolutely. And I also feel like there should be, again, a little bit more world building so that you show us the world that we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it gets a little generic, like the mythical queen. There's been a million mythical queens. How is your mythical queen different than all the other mythical queens we've seen? What are you bringing to this that's a twist that I haven't seen yet that's going to make me go, wow, that is cool. I need my kid to see that.
From a sales point of view, retellings of stories are really, always a great way to get the attention of people because they're familiar but different, which is how publishing operates, which is that they can't have anything too familiar and they can't have anything too different.
Yes, right. 7. It Takes Two to Tidy by Jessica Lynn. Josh Tan needs to finish the latest album he's producing. Instead of putting on his headphones and making beats, he's faced with dusty vinyl records that need to be cleared out of his beloved father's office after his unexpected death. With his sister busy with a newborn and his mother's own grief and declining health, he has to get the family house ready for sale. He's working through his grief with his therapist, but he needs help getting rid of cherished mementos that won't fit in his small apartment. Enter Shelley Chu, a professional organizer who's never met a problem she can't solve, file away in her color-coded binder. But she wasn't expecting to bond with her latest client over green tea and their shared experience growing up with immigrant Chinese-American parents. They begin sorting through boxes, photo albums, and memories together, but images of Josh's strong arms begin popping up in her dreams. Falling for a client is definitely not part of her 5-year plan. Her parents thought she was mad to leave a stable job to start her own business. Armed with her trusty label maker, Shelley knows she can expand her client base and do it all on her own. But what will she do when she's confronted by someone who's definitely sparking joy? And then some.
Love it.
It Takes Two to Tidy is Marie Kondo meets Sleepless in Seattle. It's fun. It Takes Two to Tidy is a 50,000-word contemporary romance with 2 Chinese-American protagonists.
That's so sweet.
It's very sweet. It is very sweet.
And I love the Marie Kondo meets Sleepless in Seattle.
It's very rom-com-y. It's definitely could be a Netflix show.
Totally.
Yes.
So here's a case where you really get a sense of these characters.
Yes, you do.
You have Shelley with her, super organized
fastidious,
binder
and
her
colors. Color-coded things and everything. And she's always got her hair's done.
And Josh is struggling, and the two come together.
He's a musician, and he's producing the album, so he's a creative person.
He's got nice muscles.
Yes, and he's got some arms on him, some gunboats on him. Yeah.
I think this is a great twist on a classic kind of romance title, but special because it's not your typical take of the two white.
It's not Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
Right.
Like that ship has sailed. It was a good ship.
Yeah.
Sailed, and now this has come.
And I love the Chinese American angle. I think it brings such freshness to the genre.
Yes, it's like a cousin of Crazy Rich Asians in a way, which was so fun to watch. So I feel like sometimes, again, there's too much telling in here, and it leaves things a bit flat. He's working through his grief with his therapist. See, I want to see him, when she shows up, he's crying. That's an active scene, okay? As opposed to working through his grief. I would like to see some of that grief. And this is for everybody, to show us these things. And this is your audition to show us that you can create this cool scene that shows us how he's grieving and how she comes in and helps him in some way with her tidiness and her, her can-do attitude, or however it manifests. I want to see these two characters and the sparks flying as she's helping him get over his crying jag and getting his albums sorted out, and he's helping her maybe to let go of her fastidiousness and her rigid 5-year planness.
And I love the end, but what will she do when she's confronted by someone who's definitely sparking joy?
Yes,
so it takes something the common parlance.
Yeah.
Anyway, great job.
Yeah. Okay, number 8. A Little Bit Yours by Anna McLean. In Eastern California, Rowan, the image of perfection at Bayville High School, finds herself lost when her parents announce they're divorcing. The world already seems to be falling apart, but gets worse when her best friend and girlfriend of 2 years, Alana, tells her she's been cheating on her for 2 months and has to leave her before anyone else gets hurt. Just as Rowan is thinking of giving up completely, she meets a mysterious girl at a coffee shop who takes her on the adventure of her life. This story tells the narrative of thousands of girls in the real world, living through heartbreaks and questioning how to survive high school. Rowan has to learn to test her own limits and change how she sees the world, her place in the world. Every teenage girl eventually has to learn how to define herself not by her traumas, but by her own terms.
As parents of a teenage girl, we say yay to the idea behind this book. I also like the title, A Little Bit Yours.
I do too.
I think that's really,
again, a nice twist on the standard coming of age story of heartbreak and
so the setup for the novel is a good one, a commercial one.
Yes, it is a commercial one.
And the mysterious girl at the coffee shop. And then, but really it's about defining oneself.
Yes.
I mean, these are tropes that can be written about forever. So right now, this pitch, like an earlier pitch that we talked about, is a pitch of ideas.
This is a book about the heart.
I don't know who this character is.
No.
And what drives her. I don't know what that soon-to-be ex-girlfriend is like. And I have no idea why the girl at the coffee shop catches her eye.
Yeah.
And what's at stake and what, at least one plot twist is. And
it seems short. I mean, I think you have
short.
more time. And when you say takes her on the adventure of her life, I don't have any idea what that means.
Yeah.
I've seen a million adventures. I've taken a million adventures. How is her adventure different? How is her adventure, again, adding to the really cool adventures we've seen in stories? God and the devil are both in the details. There's no details in the adventure of her life.
So for people who are, many people, we got hundreds of pitches, are, obviously not professional pitch writers.
Right.
probably no one is a professional. Maybe someone is a editor. A few people are editors or librarians. But the most important thing that one can do to figure out how to write a pitch is to go read the copy on the back of books. So if I were Anna, I would go to the YA section of the bookstore and look at teenage romances and read 100 to 150. Of course, you can do this in your house by going on to an online bookstore and reading 100 to 150 pitches in your part of the bookstore. And you'll see right away, when do they introduce the first plot twist? How do they describe a character so that you can transform this, which is a perfectly good start to getting a pitch off the ground into one that is ready for an agent or publisher or self-publishing.
This says the story tells the narrative of thousands of girls. And yes, you want it to be universal. But right now, when you are pitching this, we want to see the story of one girl. And then that becomes universal. And right now, I don't see enough of the girl. And I don't see enough of the adventure. I don't see enough of the new girl or the old girl that she was with. So this just needs to be filled out with juicy details that are right from the book. Maybe
okay.
Okay. Number 9, A Scarlet Thread by A.S. Bondi. Medieval Cordoba is the jewel of Al-Andalus, a thriving interfaith city that once ruled an empire. But while men governed Cordoba in the daylight, magical female assassins known as the Sisters roam the night, controlling the city in the shadows. Saba has spent 2 years guarding a local brothel to prove her worth to the Sisters. Raised on the edge of poverty in Cordoba's Jewish district, she can hardly believe her luck when the Sisters accept her into their ranks and assign her to the palace as their spy. She soon uncovers a conspiracy against the city within its own walls, a mysterious brotherhood that wants to topple Cordoba's Muslim rule and burn Cordoba's Muslim ruler. And burn the Juderia, her childhood home, to the ground. Saba assassinates one of the ringleaders, hoping to cut the head off the snake, but her plan backfires, and instead of weakening her enemy, she creates a martyr for their cause. As anger at the man's death explodes into violence, Saba must choose between following the Sisters' strict, secretive code or protecting her family, and no one who disobeys the sisterhood lives to tell about it. Spinning Silver meets Assassin's Creed in A Scarlet Thread, a 100,000-word adult historical fantasy with series potential that will appeal to fans of Rati Merota's Markswoman, a Sanya series, and Samantha Shannon's The Bone Season. Bio: I have a medieval studies PhD and recently co-authored a book on medieval history and right-wing extremism as Amy S. Kaufman. This is a cool pitch.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, there's such interesting specificity
yes, there really
in this
is.
pitch.
So
we're in this fantasy world, but there's a Jewish quarter and there's a Muslim ruler and there's these there were prostitutes.
Yeah, she's
somewhere,
guarding a brothel.
A brothel.
Yes.
So, like, there's these things we know in this interesting. The whole thing was intriguing.
It was, yes. And again, I've said this earlier on a pitch. People are looking now for these strong female characters, and this is just filled with them, especially our hero. Again, I felt. How do I make it better? I felt some of it was, you took things that were fascinating and should be full of, edge of my seatness and made them a little flat. Saba assassinates one of the ringleaders. I would like to see that scene.
Hang on, though. The second clause is so good.
Cut off the head of the snake. But again, that's an idea, to cut off the head of a snake. She's not literally cutting off the head of a snake.
I know.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, I want to see how your assassin works as opposed to the millions of other assassins. I feel like a broken record here, but this is what gets a book deal. This is what gets readers, like what you're bringing to this thing as a female assassin from this world. How does she operate? As in the Game of Thrones, there was this girl who turns into an assassin, and the way she becomes a faceless man, and there's all this really intricate plotting of how this girl in this world becomes an assassin and what she does as an assassin. That, I feel like, is what's missing from this pitch now.
I was very intrigued.
Totally intrigued. Yeah. Number 10. 3 Ingredients, working title, by Emily Esterson. Augustin Fortier has magic in his hands. His baguettes taste of love and effort, with an open crumb and crackly crust. Gifted with the mother that has been passed down in his family for centuries and the ambition of youth, Augustin is a shoo-in to win the Prix de Baguette. The key to his win? The mother, and wheat grown from his farmer friend, Lynette. One summer afternoon, Augustin finds the bakery's basement door ajar, the lock cut. The mother and his grandmother's journals of formulas are gone. Simone de Notre, the distant cousin who owns the Paris bakery, thwarts Augustin's ambitions at every turn, forcing him to sell pre-made commercial bread, turning off the ovens, sabotaging Augustin's efforts to return de Notre's into what it had been when his grandmother baked there just after the war, one of the best bakeries in Paris. Was it de Notre who stole the mother? Or was it the woman in the yellow raincoat who passes by every day, looks in the window, and sometimes stands across the street just watching? A combination of Chocolat by Joanne Harris and Jenny Colin's Little Beach Street Bakery, 3 Ingredients is about the curse of ambition, the mystery of family, and the magic of bread. The author is a professional writer/editor, holds an MFA in nonfiction, and teaches journalism at Arizona State University's Cronkite School. She spent 2 years in France, is an avid baker, and attended the San Francisco Baking Institute. Well, we love a good baking story, don't we?
We do.
We do. Yes.
I was a professional baker for 6 months.
And our daughter is a serious amateur baker.
Yes, she is. So this is a lovely idea,
yes, it
cozy,
is.
idea for a story, and
mystery,
and there's just a whole cadre of people out there who love reading about food in the form of fiction, whether it's a mystery or what have you.
And you talk about creating a world like his baguettes taste of love and effort, with an open crumb and crackly crust. It makes me hungry.
Yeah.
We were saying about the particulars of details, as opposed to he made a really good bread.
I'm having a total blank right now, but we have another Pitchapalooza winner who has published multiple novels, women's fiction about food, some of which are about baking, from Kansas City. Her name is just escaped. Judith. Her name is escaping me. But anyway, and she's had a great career writing these. She also writes cookbooks. She's a professional chef. But so anyway, I think this is really, really, really professional.
Yeah, really
pitch,
well done. Yes, I agree.
And I think I'm not sure about the Chocolat comparison, only because I think of that as magical realism.
Yeah. And more of a romance as well.
But Jenny Colgan, who we know and love,
as a friend.
That I think that's a terrific comp. So for me, I did feel there was some ingredient missing.
An ingredient, see? You didn't have enough yeast to rise the thing.
I love the idea of the mother.
What is the mother?
It's the starter for the sourdough starter kind of thing. Yeah,
right.
So I think that's people are so crazy about their mothers that I think that's a great thing. But somehow I didn't feel it.
Well, and a part of it I think is that his ambition to become a great baker. If everything fails and he doesn't become a great baker, what's going to be the consequence of that? It feels like there needs to be something added to the stakes of this in the end, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. I felt like the woman in the yellow raincoat, it should have been maybe introduced earlier, because it just sort of sits there at the end, added in there. It didn't have a chance to rise in the story, as it were.
Oh boy!
Thank you.
You know what it is? I just feel like Augustine himself.
Yeah.
We don't get him.
He's ambitious, but we don't really know much about beyond.
I didn't connect with him,
right.
and I wasn't rooting for him per se.
I think about Ratatouille as a great story about a cook, right? And that person at the middle of that story has such an interesting backstory and what they want to do and how they change in the course of that story. So it might be interesting to sort of think about and see how they pitch that story.
And that story makes you cry.
It does.
Because
you love this character so much. And the villain of that story is also really well developed, which would be cool to do more with him so that we empathize with Simone de Notre, which is a great name.
Yes.
Yeah, but really well done. Yeah. Okay, number 11. Bullets in the Water by Connor McAnally. Contemporary conspiracy theory.
Thriller.
Sorry, thriller. A senseless murder in his Texas hometown drags disgraced national journalist Mike Carson into the rotting underbelly of historic Taborville and pits him against a powerful group who know water will soon be more precious than oil. Mike finds the truth behind the murder. Must find the truth behind the murder. Face down his failings and beat a murder rap if he's to make it out of Texas. Taborville's a microcosm of America today, a confluence of venal antagonists, corrupt politicians, and corporate greed which threaten the very lifeblood of the city. The truth will be painful for everyone. Can it restore Mike and save the town, or is it much too late? This book is based on 2 murders in historic Bastrop, Texas, where we lived for 15 years, and on my wife's experience as a member of the city council during a good old boy era of casual corruption. This is my first novel. Author Anthony Trevelyan, when reviewing part of the manuscript, placed it somewhere between The Border by Don Winslow and Rayan by Elmore Leonard. I'm an award-winning investigative print journalist who transitioned to producing television. I've written for television entertainment in the USA, UK, and Ireland. My shows have won 22 major awards, including 5 BAFTAs and 5 from the Royal Television Society. I've written and performed 3 one-man shows on Texas history, Irish history, and the Mexican-American War. Well, those are impressive credentials.
The whole second paragraph, which is about the backstory and the person, are so good.
They are good.
But the first paragraph doesn't, if you're comparing yourself to Don Winslow and Elmore Leonard, then to me it sounds like this is contemporary noir, but I don't get any contemporary noir from the writing in the first paragraph.
The story is very noirish.
Yes.
But those guys they're stylists. Don Winslow, he's a fantastic writer who really knows how to spin words and make twists in stories. And the first paragraph does feel like it's written, just the style, the voice of it does feel a bit generic to me. It doesn't have that kind of rhythm, that oftentimes staccato rhythm of those kinds of stories. And again,
it has the voice of a journalist, which is what Connor is.
Yes.
So it needs to take that leap over to the fiction side. And and again, reading the copy on contemporary noir will be extremely helpful because, like Mike Carson himself, always in these stories, we have a very flawed main character.
Yes, we do.
So he's a disgraced national journalist. Why?
We don't know.
That's a great.
It is.
Did he touch someone in a way he shouldn't do it? Whatever it is.
Was he falsely accused of something?
Did he make up a story? Whatever. That's so juicy, but it's just told and not shown.
And I think you find out at the end of this first paragraph too. Taborville's a microcosm of America today. A confluence of venal antagonists, corrupt politicians, and corporate greed, which threaten the very lifeblood of the city. Again, those are all ideas. I want to see who the villain is.
If Connor's wife was sitting in on city council, you can only imagine what was said and done there.
It should be some cool name of some guy, and with an idea of. How are they threatening the very lifeblood, and what specifically the lifeblood? Again, that's an idea. What are they going to do? Are they planning on taking over the town and moving people out, or it didn't sort of I don't know, get under the skin?
Yeah,
I felt like.
Seems like there's a great book here.
It does feel like that.
And very timely.
Very timely. Okay. Number 12, Dead Man Walking by Sienna Lever. Death has been conquered. Dresno Tech, the world's largest tech company, has done the impossible. They can predict exactly when you're going to die. Their technology, the death date, gives you a 3-day alert. It's just enough time to say your goodbyes and finish any unfinished business. Will Raisin does not think 3 days is enough time. When he receives the alert, he panics. He's only 18. His life has just begun. Still, he has no choice but to accept it. When the dreaded 3 days are up, nothing happens. His death date is wrong. The dates are never wrong. His miraculous case catches the attention of Dresno Tech CEO herself. He's a glitch in their system. That makes him a weakness, a mistake. In response, they offer Will a colossal sum of hush money if he agrees to go with them and answer a few questions. How can he say no? But as soon as he arrives, Will can tell something is wrong. The other people there, the other glitches, are treated as prisoners while he's treated as an esteemed guest. And when he meets a girl named Nine, he knows something is wrong. She drops him clues that have him digging around in the past of Dresno Tech. The more he learns, the more he knows he has to escape before he loses everything on a gamble that could kill everyone.
That, first of all, Dead Man Walking, when you first read the title, you think, well, that's kind of hackneyed.
I think there is a movie, actually.
And yeah, no, there is. But when you read the pitch, it has a whole new meaning to it, which I think is cool and interesting. And I love the technology is called the death date. Like I think this is a really fantastic idea for a book, that you get this date, it's wrong, and there's something really nefarious going on. Like, it's such a great setup.
And I love that how when he gets to the place, everyone else is treated like a prisoner, but he's like, "Come on in, sir. Won't you have some more roast beef?" Yeah. It's weird, and it reminds me a little bit of a show called The Prisoner, which was really great back in the day. Like, something's wrong in this. It's supposed to be utopia, but something is off in paradise. Do we have comp titles in this book?
We don't have comp titles.
We need some comp titles.
We also don't really know what world this takes place in. Like, is it similar to our world? Or does he live at home? Right. What's his, and we don't really know who this character is, except that he's 18.
What does he desperately want in life besides, not to die and, to get to the bottom of this? But he seems to be a bit of a cardboard character at the beginning of this story. We just don't know enough about what makes him tick.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I think it's a terrific premise. Yeah. Okay.
Number 13. You treat me to a feast. If I love you, I'll feed you. By Shelley A. Carter Wilson.
I think it might be Shell, like Michelle.
Could be Shell.
I don't know.
I have a friend who spells it that way and says it as Shelley.
Oh, okay.
Call me a jelly. My daddy was dark chocolate, a fire-filled, Afro-adorned Baptist preacher, card-carrying member of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, and Princeton-educated theologian, fully aligned with zero contradiction. Mm-hmm. He married a caramel-colored, college-educated woman born in the segregated American South, steeped in faith. I am the full inheritor of their best gifts. Raised in a home where social justice was a Christian value. Jesus had always been radical, and black was beautiful. Black liberation was never part of my theology. Black liberation was my theology. Made in the perfect, precise image of God, how could the divine be anything besides black like me? Well, I once refused to eat a chicken because its feathers were black. Gifts, insights, and privilege notwithstanding, I remain watchful. Fail to be vigilant, and you no longer require an oppressor. You internalize the poison that racism is, and fully unaware, administer it routinely to yourself. A pieced quilt. My legacy is indelibly imprinted by the laying on of every forefather and mother's holy hands. I am the ancestors' wildest dream, genetically African, yet American by birth, descended from royalty, and enslaved by colonizers. I am the great-great-granddaughter of the captured, never conquered.
Hang on.
Wait 1 second. Dun, 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 dun.
That was
Dun,
our
dun,
bad.
dun, dun,
Apologies.
dun, da, da, da,
Okay.
da. Part psalm, part prose, some spun magic. This 40K word memoir is a spoken word performance. Red and wine meets soul food. Bread and wine. Spiritual divinization, spice and grace. These stories decode my faith, family food, and our cultural traditions along with the lessons they taught me. Well, there's some beautiful writing in this.
Beautiful writing.
Yeah.
My goodness, I mean the poetry so comes
it's
through.
Very spoken.
And I can feel if it's Shelley or Shell's spoken word.
I would think this could make a great one-person show, don't you? I mean,
absolutely.
I'm assuming that you know how to spit
sling
these
words.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very, very beautiful, and we really get a sense of this. You treat me to a feast. If I love you, I'll feed you. Like you just get such a great sense of voice.
Yeah,
here.
You really do.
And
yes.
Now at the end, when you say this 40K word memoir is a spoken word performance, these stories, okay, part psalm, part prose, some spun magic. So from a selling point of view, I'm not quite sure what that means in terms of the narrative where this. It is a memoir.
Yes, it says it's a memoir.
So that's great.
A short memoir.
And I love the idea of this quilt, like that this is somehow creating like a word quilt.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Arielle is a partner with one of the great poets of our time who writes books, Kwame Alexander.
Yeah.
The books are poems, but they're narrative stories with beginning, middle, and end, like a novel, but it's a poem.
Yeah.
Like, the Iliad and the Odyssey. And I don't know if that's what this is, if it actually has a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end with a plot and characters.
Right,
that's not clear to me, and that's tough for me if I'm an agent, an editor, or someone who's buying the book, frankly, once it's out, what exactly I'm getting here. I know that this person can write.
Yeah. And also, we talked about character description. I just want to say this first line once more. My daddy was dark chocolate, a fire-filled, afro-adorned Baptist preacher, card-carrying member of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, and Princeton-educated theologian, fully aligned with zero contradiction. I
mean, that's just like, we talked about this specificity. Well, it doesn't get much more specific than that. Now, I don't know what Jelly, D-J-E-L-I is. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
That's the first line, and neither of us know what it means.
But I would be interested to look it up. Like, it makes me want to go, what is that?
I mean, at the beginning of one of my books, which is called Chicken, I define what it is. Chicken, noun. And then you see.
Of West Africa is a, no, that's something different. I don't
know. We don't know. But maybe that's a way to solve that problem where it's like almost like you're starting with a dictionary. Jelly, noun. Because now we don't know.
Beautiful writing.
Beautiful writing. Gorgeously written. Number 14, The Honeycomb by Jordan Donald. How far will you go to belong? That's the question that plagues Jake, an athletic, reluctantly sensitive, average white high school student who feels like a puzzle piece that doesn't match. Trying to be a loyal friend, his friend Jamie's comments on race and sexuality become harder to ignore. Then, during an English class and under Jamie's relentless pressure, Jake does something he will never be able to undo. On the school football team and surrounded by a group of friends that have been together forever, Jake seems to have what every student wants. Well, what every student thinks they want, a place they fit. However, an intentionally disruptive decision puts Jake in close quarters with Fatia, a victim of Jamie's attacks. Fatia's profound insight, born from her experience of growing up Muslim in a white area, has Jake questioning what it means to be white, to have privilege, and to be silent. Tension builds as Jake begins to understand why he's never felt like he belonged. and what it would take to change that. Finally discovering the courage to confront Jamie, Jake becomes Jamie's new target. Jake has two choices. Both have a cost. Repair his friendship with Jamie, but lose who he's becoming, or trust Fatia and step onto a new path, risking everything he's known. The Honeycomb is a YA novel based on my experience as a white Canadian discovering what it means to be truly human.
This is a very of the moment book.
Totally is.
And I think it's interesting to center on the white, athletic, high school popular boy who's going through a transformation and has to reject what he comes from. I also think there's really good twists in here, and very high stakes for everybody involved. What I wish is that we knew more about what actually went wrong, particularly in the line, Jake does something he will never be able to undo.
I don't know what that means. It didn't move me. It didn't scare me. It didn't frighten me. It didn't do anything for me. It just sat there on the page.
Yeah, so I know people, it's hard to know how much do I reveal, how much do I not reveal.
More than that.
But if this is the inciting incident, in order to get people to read, we need at least some piece of what happened.
Yes,
there.
We really do.
I also just want to make a personal comment from an agent perspective. The last line of this pitch, which is Jordan's note about his own experience, that it's a YA novel based on my experience as a white Canadian discovering what it means to be truly human, meant something to me.
Yeah.
So sometimes adding in ideas about a novel can just be like, I just want to hear about the novel. Other times it can be truly meaningful. And in this case, I found that to be true. I
totally agree with you. I can just see you on The View talking about what it's like, trying to come to grips with your own privilege and how do you stand up to somebody who's being a racist. I spent part of my youth in Alabama and I saw many racist things and I kept my mouth shut, and I wish I could go back and confront the people who were doing this, the people in power, the kids in power and their parents. And I was just trying to fit in, like poor Jake was trying to fit in.
Yeah.
But it's of the moment, as you say, with Black Lives Matter, and all of this idea of reparations and in the world today, I think it's very of the moment. It just needs to have some more concrete details in it. 15. Animal Acceptance by Beatrice Vargas. This is not a fairy tale. She's no innocent, and there isn't a big bad wolf. There are two of them. Lynn has turned her back on London and a bad marriage, only to be marooned in the Irish countryside by months of torrential rain, until her cozy isolation is shattered by a long-lost friend over from the U.S. and keen to saddle her with his companions, men who barely speak but will calmly install themselves first in her house, then in her bed, men who turn out to be exactly what they seem. Not the moon-cursed transmutation, obviously. They get mad if you even say that word. Their kind is real, whether they like it or not. No fur, no sudden fangs, because a man who truly embodies the spirit of a wolf is a tall, lean, silent, and mysterious. Formidable, but interesting. Always on the lookout for food and sex. Meet Lou and Johnny. Lynn may not know their secret, yet she knows exactly what she's doing when she takes them on. It's fun. But how will she keep this quirky menage intact when the outside world and the weather insist on intruding? And what will happen when she discovers their true nature and their ulterior motive? Literary with a paranormal streak, this is a story for women raised on Angela Carter, who relish dark and dangerous masculinity, but would prefer it tempered with a modern sensibility. Instinctive, consensual, the way it is out there in the forest.
It's funny because to me, my favorite part of this pitch is the very beginning and the very end. So I love, and there isn't a big bad wolf, there are two of them.
Yes,
that's
it's
great. And
yes.
I love instinctive, consensual, the way it is out there in the forest.
But is it consensual?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know what it is. If I'm a rabbit, I don't consent to getting eaten by a fox.
No, but I was thinking the sex. but I don't know if animal sex is, it doesn't always look that way,
really
certainly.
No.
But it's an interesting idea.
It is an interesting idea.
So for me, the thing that I'm confused about is,
I'm confused too.
Is there, are these like wolf men? Because it says paranormal.
Yes.
So I thought you were just using the metaphor of the wolf, but then at the end I was like, no, maybe not. Yeah,
maybe these are werewolves of some kind who, when the moon goes into, it was very unclear to me, and not in a good way, because I'm confused. And also, like halfway through the pitch, we meet Lou and Johnny. That was kind of strange also, and I didn't quite know what was the nature of their menage and how was the weather involved.
Well, I just think, to me, the book is, she's used to these kind of average men.
Yes.
Who just are like, whatever. Right. And then here comes the deep, dark, sexy, wolf-like or whatever. Yes. So like, it sounds interesting and like, it could be a great kind of semi-erotic novel. Yes. And you kind of get this sense at the beginning, like this rain, it's just like all the stuff, and then these two characters show up. Yes. So I liked all of that. I feel like right now the pitch is too internal to the writer, meaning like Beatrice needs to take a little bit of a step back for those of us who have never read the book to give us more of an understanding of
the characters and the plot.
Yeah.
Who they are and what happens.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Okay. 16. Something in Between by Sophia Lourdet Santa Maria Micher. That's a hell of a name. Yeah. After a protest at City Hall goes wrong, Luna, a Mexican-American high school senior, is saved from being pushed into traffic by a boy named Briar. Sparks fly, bad humor is exchanged, and something about a zombie. But more than sparks ignite when she realizes Briar is the son of the racist, white supremacist candidate for mayor. Briar's father is against her and her people, and she despises his father with every ounce of her saucy Latina blood. The last thing Luna needs is a tumultuous romance. She's already juggling the emotional warfare of her parents' divorce and the painful confusion of being biracial in a world bent on forcing her into a box, one box or another. Yet Briar has brought both new laughter and hope into her life. She doesn't believe in love, but she does believe in going against the current, and maybe, just maybe, she's willing to try. But playing with fire always burns. Caught between love and hate, marriage and divorce, Mexican and American, Luna struggles to understand who she is when the love of her life is distorted. Will hate decide who she is and who she loves? Something in Between is a YA novel about questioning one's identity through adolescence and being in love despite having everything against you. Told through both humorous and defiant narrations and a collection of honest poems. Something in Between is The Sun is Also a Star meets Romeo and Juliet. Manuscript is completed around 45,800 words.
I love, a new twist on Romeo and Juliet. Can't go wrong there, right? And I love, the mix here of the Mexican American and the white supremacist kid from a white supremacist family.
Seems very current.
Very, very current. And the fact that her parents are going through this divorce. Yes. So the love is already problematic. Yes. And then on top of it, she's dealing with the fact that love is not working out in her own family's life.
Yeah, it's all turning sour.
So it's a nice double layer there. Yeah. I also think there's some nice writing in here. I do too. I think Luna herself, I don't have
a clear enough idea of who she is, and I know she wants love in her life, but we all want some kind of love in our life. I don't get a clear enough picture of her. I agree.
And then it says told through both humorous and defiant narration. So I didn't understand, are both characters narrators?
Yeah, that was
if that is not true. And also, as David said earlier, much better than telling us that it's humorous would be to make us laugh. And this actually doesn't, it's well written, but humor is not the thing that I take away from this.
I didn't laugh.
Yeah.
No. And I mean, there is a little bit of cliche, but playing with fire always burns. I feel like I've heard that
At the
phrase.
same time, I feel like if it were a Netflix series, that totally would be the log line for it. So I'm okay with that. I mean, it's a good tagline.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So yes. So I also like the title, Something in Between.
I do like the title.
Yeah.
I do feel like we need more of the plot, the actual pieces of action that happen.
Yeah.
Need a couple more of those
in there.
in
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
17. Esther Hanada's Mega Manga Mix-Up. That's a nice
Great
mouthful.
title.
By Marianne Robin Tanney. Esther Hanada, 13, will never become a manga artist. Not with her strict CFO Japanese mom expecting her to study STEM and her embarrassing YouTube performance artist dad who would make her the laughingstock of Frida Kahlo High School. It gets even...
If she gets
in. Worse yet, Esther loses a chance to perfect her portfolio via a mentorship with her favorite manga artist to her arch nemesis, Cora Sanchez. Ready to hang up her drawing tablet for good, Esther discovers her power to magically transport into her own drawings, which would be an awesome way to meet that hot teen librarian she created. However, Esther finds strange new characters wreaking havoc in her story, and they aren't her creations, they're Cora's. The mix-up doesn't end on Esther's pages. 2 of her characters have disappeared into Cora's manga. The girls have only 5 days to switch them back and fix their stories before the art school applications are due. As the deadline ticks closer, Esther and Cora must end their rivalry, work together to battle armed guards, scent-hunting bots, and Cora's hypnotizing rock star villain to finish Esther's story, #IRL, before it finishes them. Esther Hanada's Mega Manga Mix-Up, a 76K middle grade fantasy, is Sal and Gabi Break the Universe meets Ready Player One. I published 3 unauthorized celebrity biographies with St. Martin's Press, produced and directed an award-winning children's yoga DVD series. I'm fluent in Japanese and addicted to manga. I've never escaped into another world, but hope to someday soon. By the way, there are 12-step programs for people who are addicts. And the first step, admitting you have a problem.
This is so funny.
It's so fun and funny.
It's so creative.
Yes, it is.
I
haven't seen this kind of story yet enter the mainstream about manga characters. Again, we have a story within a story where characters are coming to life. Again, which is really fun. I like that. We saw that earlier in a story in a different way. And I feel like I do kind of know Esther with her mom,
totally,
getting on her all the time, and her dad's on YouTube.
I love that he's like embarrassing performance artist.
Right? Yes, that's
Sounds
good.
Somewhat familiar.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, my daughter won't be seen with me publicly anymore. I respect that. So yeah, and the stakes are high. There's got a clock that's ticking.
These two rivals
are
forced to work
together. That's fun.
And there's just so many good elements
and turns
to this.
In it. Yeah.
I found it super, super fun, and it's a middle grade fantasy. And there's so many kids who are into manga, so this is like really
kind of an audience built in. It feels like
really, really awesome.
And if you do write a celebrity biography, I feel it should be unauthorized. Those are the best ones to write, I feel like. And you've done 3 of them for St. Martin's Press. So that just leads. And again,
I do have one concern. I don't know, which is that for those of you who know what own voices means, this is writing about a Japanese American character. I don't know if the author is. That's not stated here.
Right.
And in the publishing world right now,
that if in fact it's a white
a white author. Now this person is fluent in Japanese, obviously knows this world really well. Just something to know about.
You are a Japanese person, you should say that, because it's a big deal now.
Or just use the own voices hashtag.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 18. Class of 79 by Holly L. Dutton. There are few places more dangerous than a high school parking lot 10 minutes before the bell rings. But at Mountain Vista High School, the danger doesn't end with fender benders in the student lot. When Kari starts her first year of teaching, she expects a steep learning curve, maybe a few difficult students. She does not expect to be starting her new career in a crime scene. But the murder of the school's winning football coach the first week of school is just the beginning. Kari's classroom is broken into. Her overzealous journalism students are on the trail of the murderer. The vice principal hates her, and one of her co-workers just may be the guilty party, unless it's one of the students. As Kari gets to know her fellow teachers, she starts to have a few ideas about who might be responsible for the school's crime spree. But she's not the only one with crime-solving instincts. The home economics teacher, source of school lore, random gossip, and fabulous baked goods, Grace Billingsley, has other ideas. She thinks it's Kari. Now Kari has to solve the crime to prove her innocence. Set against the end of an era, Class of 79 is rollicking trip to the past, complete with rock and roll music, muscle cars, and murder.
This has a really good twist in it.
Yeah.
She has to solve it in order to prove her own innocence.
Not end up in the big house.
Yeah.
Yes, right,
so
right.
that to me, like sometimes a pitch can really show that you know how to plot a novel. In 250 words, you can show someone that you do that. And I feel like Holly did that here.
Yes. I'm wondering, is there a romance in this book? It doesn't seem to be. It feels like maybe there should be. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't care about that, but I care. I also think there's Holly also has a good sense of humor. Like the first paragraph of the pitch, that there are few places more dangerous. Like it's funny.
Yes,
it's good.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
This pitch is quite short, and I do feel like we could have a little bit more of like what is going on for always in these books. The protagonist has their struggle.
They've got some problem that maybe we don't know what it is at the beginning, but it's haunting them, and they have to solve that problem or come to grips with it in some way by the end of the story, and that is absent in this. I'd also kind of like to know how, like, the murder, what the murder was like. That's another way of telling us about the story, what it is, what level of murder is there going to be here, what's the tone of this going to be, and is this a YA book or is this an adult?
I think so.
No, because
it's
novel.
The teacher.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see any rock and roll music in the pitch itself, or any muscle cars to speak of.
Right. I guess that's the last thing. Even though this is not fantasy, this is 1979.
Yeah.
So a little bit more world building would be great.
What the clothes look like.
Such a specific time.
Yes, as the Bee Gees' "Staying Alive" is playing in the background,
whatever.
Like
that.
Yeah. Yes.
The nut-hugging elephant bells.
Don't say that. Salty language.
Okay.
Okay. 19. Snobs and Silly Mothers by Julia Henkelman. Being Jane Austen's most well-known and, bitchy romantic hero surely is the easy life, except that most of what Fitzwilliam Darcy had to say ended up on the floor of the cutting room. So what exactly did Miss Elizabeth tell him on those walks and Rosings that sounded like, "Please drop by and propose already"? And how did it come about that he visited his sister just days before she was about to ruin her life by eloping with her childhood friend and all-around scoundrel? For that matter, how was Darcy's life and personality influenced by growing up next to a cheat, liar, and budding adulterer, watching even his own father being taken in by the little blighter? And talking about a lack of perspective. How does
Perception.
What did I say? Perspective?
Mm-hmm.
And talking about a lack of perception, how does he deal with having a best friend whose routine is a new place, any new places, make himself acquainted with everyone of higher status than the greengrocer, acquire invitations to the next village dance, immortally fall in love with the residents' most beautiful women I have met in all my life, who, on a good day, will not turn out to be closely related to the greengrocer? And how did the resulting jerk with a heart of gold experience his encounter with yet another determined mother on the hunt and her gaggle of daughters? Well, she's the Jane Austen expert.
I will speak to this.
She wrote a book about Jane Austen.
I did a cutting room floor Jane Austen called Pride and Promiscuity.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, darling.
Yes, absolutely.
So I feel like there's lots of fun things in here, and there's a never-ending love of anything that would keep Jane Austen alive for another moment. So I think there's absolutely a market for this, and you know your Jane Austen. I like the title, Snobs and Silly Mothers. Yeah. I don't really understand what the book is.
The story. I don't get the story.
Is it just like backstory that we don't know about Mr. Darcy? Is it told in novel form? Right. That is not clear, and I think that really needs to be made evident.
Yes, and I found myself in that last paragraph, which, by the way, is all one sentence.
Yeah.
I found myself stumbling a lot because I couldn't quite make sense of it. The rhythm of it seemed off. And there's all kinds of clauses within the sentence.
Yes.
I didn't know.
And there's weird punctuation.
Where I was by the end of the sentence, I couldn't remember where I had begun and what the point of the sentence was. It needs to be like 4 sentences, I feel like. There's so much information in there.
I also feel like that is all about Mr. Bingley, and this is supposed to be about Darcy.
Right.
So, like, I would trim that again, actually, I would use that space to talk about what this book is.
How it actually, the plot of the book, and how that plot plays off of the Jane Austenness.
Absolutely. Okay.
And we're down to our last
final pitch.
Number 20. Tempestuous by Savni.
Sanvi.
Thank you. Savni.
Sanvi.
What did I say? What did I say?
Savni.
Sanvi. Sorry. Sanvi Agarwal. Ishani Dalal learns that she has a stomach tumor at 11 a.m. alone in a white hospital. It takes her exactly 50 seconds to decide upon 2 rules. Don't tell anyone, and don't die. Considering that she breaks rule 1 15 minutes later, she might need to rework those. Seriously reworking those because her incompetence at understanding her own illness leaves her to turn to Daya, a Gadara and once a sister who is determined to bring all Ishani's problems to light and rescue her. And with that, Ishani's life is turned upside down. From her dutiful role as the Indian-American daughter, following her family's guidance and the best friend who literally lives to be helpful, she finds strange relations and secrets everywhere she looks. Suddenly, her tumor seems to be the least of her concerns compared to her parents' sudden interest in her life, after years of ignoring her and stalking her best friend to check if he attempted to commit suicide again. Not that Daya will let her forget about her conditions, because with every panic attack and bloody washing session, she's closer to breaking rule 2, and hiding is only working for so long before Ishani has to decide just how much she's willing to help the people she loves, with her own life dangling in the air. Tempestuous is a 95,000-word multicultural young adult novel where Who Puts This Song On meets Dumpling Days.
So this has super high stakes.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's life and death from the very first paragraph.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So and we also do get the kind of circumstance of our protagonist, that she's the dutiful Indian American daughter following her family's guidance, and of course she has this tumor. So the setup is good, but I actually got confused.
I was a little confused. I don't know what a Gadara is to begin with, and once a sister right here.
Yeah, but also once she finds estranged relations and secrets everywhere.
Right.
I mean, it's so non-specific.
Yes, it's very vague and sort of generic, right?
So both of those things are great ideas, but we need to know what's actually going on.
And because they're staples in novels, they've been presented many times. It's well-trodden, ground here.
I love that the tumor becomes the least of her concerns. So here we have the setup of the novel. She has this tumor. You think, okay, that's what this novel is going to be about.
Yeah, right.
That goes to the back seat,
cool.
which is wonderful.
But it's always bubbling back there. How can it not? Right. That is cool.
So I think we just need some more of what really happens
the actual
in the
story, the events that occur, the plot of the book. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we actually, if you can believe it, we did not come in with a winner. That's the absolute truth. We just don't do that. We read through them and we see how we feel when we do that, and then we make the decision and we answer questions. So while David talks to you momentarily and does our finishing up, I am going to go look at everything one more time with our notes here. Let's see. I think it was over here. No?
Nay.
Well,
I would first of all like to say thank you to all of the NaNoWriMo participants. We read some amazing pitches this year. We feel blessed and lucky to be part of NaNoWriMo, the world of NaNoWriMo. Arielle actually, as an agent, represented Chris Beatty, who's sort of the guy who started all this. And when he wrote a book called No Plot, No Problem, which is still one of the mottos of National Novel Writing Month. And we spent like 3 weeks in rural Canada with the NaNoWriMo people, with Grant, who runs the place now, and Chris. And we just had such a fantastic time. And they've done so much stuff for writers. There have been so many fantastic books that have come out of NaNoWriMo, and also just this idea of creativity and just to engage fully and completely without sort of the ideas of, trappings of success, and it's just going to be something. No, you're just going to write 50,000 words. That's what you're going to do. And I feel like so much of my creative life is all wrapped up in ambition and, how is this going to be in the world? And sometimes it takes us away from the thing that made us be a writer, which is the fun of creating this world and these characters. And sometimes when they take over the characters in the world, that's when it gets the most fun. So I feel like NaNoWriMo is a very important thing to have in the world. So, as I said earlier, we have a YouTube channel, which we have many, many, many videos on all kinds of subjects, like how to pitch a book, for instance, how to get your book sold, lots and lots of information, and we hope some infotainment in the videos. And if you want us to do a video about something, let us know. David at the Book Doctors, that's me. Send me an email about something you'd like to know about that's not up there yet. Or if you have any questions about how stuff works, check out the videos. And if you don't see them answered, let us know. Okay, so fan favorite voting begins tomorrow and runs through 11:59 Pacific Standard Time on March 31st. So visit our website, www.thebookdoctors.com, to vote on your favorite pitch that you saw. As we say during elections, vote early and vote often. If you want information on getting published and opportunities to pitch us, remember to join. We have a newsletter that goes out, and there's always tips in there and success stories. And I feel like we've seen one interesting thing about Pitchapalooza is that you start to see people do the same things and make the same mistakes and have the same successful methods as well. Like we saw a lot of people who did a lot of telling and not enough showing. They didn't give us enough plot. They didn't give us enough character. They didn't give us enough world building.
I'm going to stop you for
Please
1
do.
second. I have a winner.
What?
And we are going to stay on and answer questions afterwards, but for a few minutes. But I know there are people who want to go. We said this was going to be 90 minutes, so I do want to announce the winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, you want to announce it?
Yep. The winner of 2021 NaNoWriMo Pitchapalooza is Esther Hanada's Mega Manga Mix-Up by Marianne Robin Tammy.
Yay. I knew it. I had a very good feeling about that.
And
it's so fun and fresh and got twists and characters.
So good. There were so many good pitches.
I think there's going to be a few books that get published out of this batch.
Yep. And I also just want to tell people there's a Pitchapalooza winners book that's coming out in May that's already gotten starred reviews from Publishers Weekly. So check it out. It's May Cobb's The Hunting Wives,
May Cobb's
which
great.
is an adult thriller that is fantastic.
Yeah, she's an amazing writer. She tells a great story.
Already been optioned.
No.
Yes.
Sheesh.
So by Hollywood. So check that out. And we do have a few questions that have come in. So I'm going to start with, shouldn't the pitch include something about the writer? Yes. It is very helpful to have something about the writer in a pitch.
Like the Canadian writer said, this is based on my life about being a young Caucasian Canadian and trying to deal with racism.
And someone else wrote about how they have a PhD in medieval history.
Someone else said they were a registered nurse.
Exactly.
Those are all great things.
So they show us that you have the authority to write the book that you are writing.
I saw here, is there a recording of the event? I said earlier that I think if you use the same URL here, that will take you to the recording.
And Christy will answer that question, I'm sure. How do you intrigue people and share the plot twist in a pitch without giving too much away? Yeah,
so I always say that, if you're pitching a mystery, for instance, you don't want to say, oh, and by the way, in the end, the butler did it. You wouldn't tell us that. But this is a question of trial and error. We try, and if it works, it'll be pretty clear, and if it doesn't, it won't be clear at all. And I also strongly advise you to get a community of writers around you. NaNoWriMo is great for that, and test your pitch out on people. You don't want to reveal the ultimate ending of the book, but you want to reveal enough. We saw a lot of people who didn't reveal enough, so it ended up being generic information that felt a little cliched oftentimes and didn't have the specifics needed to demonstrate why this is a cool new idea that is also kind of familiar. I feel like that's a vague answer, but it's tough to say exactly how much, you reveal 63.4% of the plot of your book. It's hard to say exactly, but there has to be enough for us to sink our teeth into.
If a book uses an unusual voice, such as a journal entry style narration, do you suggest writing the pitch to describe that style or utilizing that style for your pitch? So sometimes you can borrow a couple lines.
Yeah, it's hard to write your whole pitch. We've seen people try to do that as a journal entry or a diary entry or as text sent back and forth or emails or whatever. That ends up, this is a selling tool for an agent, for a publisher, for a reader to know, oh, this is the kind of book I'm getting. Here's the plot. Here are the characters. Here's the world. So we suggest, if that is the case, use a little bit of it sometimes at the top and then present your story and your characters, etc.
And it can be helpful to go to books that are written in the same style as yours and see how the flap copy was written for those books, to give a sense. I have all the questions.
I'm just looking.
Okay. So I heard you guys say a lot about com titles and personal info. Do you need that for paranormal romance? I haven't seen a lot of that on book jackets. So the com titles you sometimes see on a book jacket for readers of blah, blah, blah. But the com titles are really for agents and publishers.
It's kind of a shorthand that lets them communicate. It's this meets that. When an agent pitches to an editor, they'll say it's this meets that, and they go, oh, I see. And then the editor can go to their editorial board and say, well, it's a little of that and a little of this, and they'll go, oh, well, tell me more. That's the object of the elevator pitch, the comparable titles, is to go, wow, that's an interesting combination. I want to know more about this book.
Yeah, and in terms of your bio, if you've had writing published, if you have a blog about paranormal romance, if there's something that is relevant, yes, that can be helpful.
If you lived with a ghost.
If you did, that would be awesome.
To include.
Yeah. So the fan favorite gets an hour consultation for free with us. That's worth $250. Someone asked about that. What stood out for us in selecting these pitches? The pitches at Christy chooses randomly from all of the ones selected. So from these selected, as we went through, we talked about what was working and what wasn't. I'm not quite sure I understand what that question is. That's okay. For query letters, pitches to agents, should they generally be 250 words or less? Is it problematic if it's more, but still one page? So, of course, a page these days is irrelevant, right? Because it's an email. But people have a very short attention span. So we like to try to keep it to the 250 words because that's about all people have in them.
Our pitch is 19 seconds long. I mean, it's 100 words, maybe not even that many. But if we were doing a query, it would be bolstered by our credentials as well. But yeah, the shorter you can make your pitch and still have it make someone go, oh my God, I have to have this, the better it is for you.
Are peer-reviewed journal articles worth mentioning as writing creds if I'm writing fiction? If what you're writing about, let's say that you're writing something that takes place in a medieval environment, and you are a professor of medieval studies and you've had articles written in your field, then yes. If you are a bio
economist. If you're a bioeconomist and you've written
some new field
peer review papers and you're writing a book of poetry, it might not be so relevant.
Yeah. I think we have come to the end of the questions.
That's it.
And we loved reading all of your pitches. For those of you who did not, it's always so interesting. Also, depending on what's happening in the world at the time, we see different trends in pitches. So not necessarily full on COVID, but things having to do with viruses and being stuck inside and all that kind of stuff came up. All kinds of political stuff as well.
Some eco-warrior stuff.
A lot
like
of
the world
eco-warrior.
is being destroyed. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
It's kind of encouraging to see, actually.
Very interesting. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. And if you want more information on anything about publishing, please go to our YouTube channel and let us know what you would like to hear more about. And we've been very bad about videos lately, but
we're going to make some more.
Okay,
see you.
See you at the bookstore, people.
Thanks.